everybody. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
Today we're taking a look at a game called Tribes of the Wind. A futuristic forests are taking over everything.
The forests are taking over?
The forests are
wow.
back. They're
I need to play the
back.
game again knowing that.
They're happening.
No, what I mean is like cities have fallen and nature has taken over.
Mm-hmm. That's the forest. I call that the forest.
Right.
But more importantly, you want nature to grow in the color pattern that you want. Because that will help you regain a special ability.
Got to have that colorful forest.
Yeah, you're trying to rebuild your own civilization, your own little part of the world, with some card play, as one would.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see how it plays. Who's teaching this one?
That would be me, Tom.
Show us, Mike.
You got it. Okay, here we see a game of Tribes of the Wind set up. This would be a 3-player game as I have it showing to you here. Each player is going to have their own individual player board, which is slightly unique to each player, has some slight asymmetrical nature to it. So you can see that there are a number of other different player boards here, and each of these particular players are also going to have a little set of cards that are unique to them that give them some powers that they can unlock throughout the game that you can see match up with the character art on the board. All right, so I've got my character board here. I've got my starting cards that I'm hopefully able to unlock. In this game, I'm set up as a first player, so I started with a particular village tile and certain resources that are determined by player order. All right, on your turn, you're going to be doing 2 phases. You're going to take an action and then refill your hand of cards. So on the action, you're going to be doing one of 3 different types of actions. The thing you'll be doing most often is playing an element card. The other thing that you can do is you can place a temple, or finally, you can build a village. The game end is going to be triggered by the first player to build all 5 of their villages, and when they do so, they're going to take this little token. It'll be 5 points at the end of the game, and it also will give, basically, that round will end, and then everyone will get one final turn. So let's talk about those 3 actions that you'll be doing in a little bit more detail. We'll start with playing an element card because that's what you're going to be doing most often. So the way I've got this set up here is really just to get it in frame. These are my cards, and the game comes with these card holders, all right? And so obviously, I'll be able to see what's on the front of my cards. I also will be able to see the type of cards that my opponents have as well, and that is important because these cards oftentimes will trigger not only on what you have in your hand, but what other players have in their hands as well. Again, only looking at the back of the card. So you can see that there are 4 different type of element cards. They're all represented out here. The fire, water, plant, and wind. All right. And so when you play a card, what you're going to do is pick one from your hand, play it, and resolve whatever it shows. So let me show you some different types of cards. What this card is saying is that I need to have 2 blue cards to be able to play this card and get the associated benefit. Now, I can't play this card right now because I only have 1 blue card. So that card right now would not be of much use to me. I look at this green card. What this is telling me is to look at the green cards for my neighbors. And if one neighbor has a green card, then I can do this associated action. If both of my neighbors have a green card, I can do a slightly better action, which in this case is building a village for a certain amount of water. All right, well, in my case right now, both of my neighbors have a green card, so that card would be a potential viable play. This is saying amongst myself and my neighbors, count the total number of blue cards and get an associated number of water as a resource. So right now, I have a blue card and both of my neighbors each have 1. There are 3 blue cards associated amongst all of us. So I would go for this top one. I'd only get 2 water. Maybe not the best time to play this card. I'd want to wait until myself and my neighbors have more cards. One thing you should notice is that I'm counting this card in this equation. Anytime you play a card, you would count its symbol with that. So there are 3 blue cards, not just 2. All right, this card is saying if I have less blue cards than either one neighbor, I would get this top benefit. If I have less blue cards than both of my neighbors, I'd get a better benefit. Well, I don't in this case. I have 1 blue card. Each of my neighbors also have 1 blue card. What this card is telling me is that if I've got in my hand 1 of each of the cards represented, I can do this action, which is removing some pollution. I could play this card. So Right now, on my turn, if I played a element card, I would probably play this one or this one. But I want to show you how to build a village tile, so I'm going to say I'm picking this card, okay? Again, is there a green card that both of my neighbors have? Yes. So I would discard this, and I'm going to be building a village for 4 water. I happen to have 4 water. I started the game with that. My starting tile showed that. And so I would pay that water, and now I've got this lineup of village tiles that I can choose to build. A couple of things that I would want to be looking at. I would likely maybe go for this tile right here, okay? This is a green tile. I have to place it orthogonally adjacent to an already existing village tile that does not have any pollution. Well, that means I have one option right now. I can place it right there because these are the only 2 orthogonally adjacent tiles, and this one started with 1 pollution on it, all right? This would then get refilled. That would have been my turn. I would refill, take one of these cards on display, or the top. Maybe I would go ahead and take this green card, put it in my hand, and then refill. All right? So that is playing a element card. That's the thing you're going to be doing most often. The other things that you can do is you can place out a temple. All right? Now, temples are allowing you to cycle out some cards. So if you've got cards in your hand that maybe you don't think are going to be very useful to you, that you want to get some different types of cards, you can discard, you must discard 3 cards from your hand, choose one of these 4 temples that you start the game with, place it onto a tile that does not already have one, and get an associated benefit. All right? So let's say on a future turn, I get rid of these 3 cards, and I choose this temple, and I put it on that tile. I could have put it on this tile too. This is saying remove 5 pollution from my board. Well, I want to clear off pollution around where I'm going to be building. So 1, 2, 3, maybe I would do these 4, 5. All right. So that's another thing you can do is 4 times a game, remove a temple, do the associated action, get 4 water, 4 wind rider movements, which I'll talk about in a moment, remove pollution, build a village tile for a particular amount of water. I would then draw back up to 5. Let's just take 3 from the top here to put them in my card holder. All right. So that was 2 of the 3 actions. The final action is building one of your villages. And this is going to be where, again, you are triggering endgame when all 5 of those are built. That is a separate action. That's not something that you just do. To be able to build a village, you have to have the spots on the tile filled with wind riders. So this is saying this one needs 4 wind riders on this tile. And then you would have to take the build action to make that happen. All right. So let's say that throughout the course of the game, I had gotten some wind rider movements. They start up here. It takes 1 movement to move them from here to your starting tile, and then another movement to move them orthogonally. So let's say that I had gotten some wind rider movement through playing some cards, perhaps maybe even through building a temple, and now I've got 4 wind riders on this tile. Okay. I could then take an action to flip this tile over. All right. What I would do is put these back into my supply, flip it over. If there was a temple on it, that temple would stay on it. And then there's a spot to put one of your village tiles. So you would do that. You'd place one of your village tiles. Now, many of these have particular benefits on them when you flip them over. This is a particularly good one because it has 3 different benefits. All right. It's got a catapult, which means that immediately you can take one of your wind riders and put it on any tile on your board. All right. So that just kind of catapults them wherever you want them to go. It also has one of these platforms, which means that this is now adjacent to your village. So for 1 movement, you can go from here to here. You don't have to go through here. And it's also adjacent to any other village tiles you have on the board that are built with that symbol. The other nice thing this has is a wind turbine, which means that when I build it, it does not produce any pollution. Many times, perhaps most times, when you build a village, this little symbol here tells you when you flip it over, you have to put pollution on orthogonally adjacent tiles that are there. Okay, so this particular tile had a whole bunch of nice stuff. I place it there. The other thing that happens when you build a village is you choose one of these cards in the market, and you're going to do one of 2 things. You have an immediate effect that you can take right away and just do what it says. Remove a pollution, 2 wind rider movement, gain 2 water. Or alternately, you can place it on the left side of your board. There's 4 spots. You start with one random in your kind of player board there. And now this is an end game goal that you're trying to reach to get points. Basically, this one is saying if you can get 3 different types of village tiles in a row at the end of the game, you will get 8 points. All right, that's something that you'd be keeping in mind. Another thing that you're keeping in mind is that every player board has some particular goals you're trying to reach, and that's where these cards come in. All right, this particular one is saying have one village built on a tile in this row, which might be why I would remove that pollution earlier. So if I get village tiles built out here and one of these end up getting on there, then what I get to do is choose one of these 4 cards, slot it into one of these 2 slots, and now I've got a permanent ability for the rest of the game. For example, maybe I'd choose this one, and this is saying that every time I remove 1, 2, 3 pollution, I would get 2, 4, 6 water. Maybe I want to start with that one. I slot it in right there, and now for the rest of the game, I've got that ability. The other thing you're trying to do is get a particular pattern of colored village tiles. So this is saying yellow, green, green, purple, purple. They don't have to be in like a particular arrangement, but they have to be orthogonally adjacent and uninterrupted. So right now I'm already working towards it. I've got a yellow and a green, so it can go backward. The next green could go down here, then you could have a purple here and a purple here, or you can go yellow, green, green, purple, purple. Doesn't matter as long as they're orthogonally adjacent and uninterrupted. All right? Each of the different boards have different things that they're trying to achieve to get you those cards. So like for example, this player, you're trying to get 8 spots on your board that don't have any pollution on them, and your first one starts with that. All right? Different things that you're trying to reach depending upon the player, and they all again have their own cards that are specific to that character that give you different abilities that you can then do. All right, that's essentially the game. Every player is going to take their turns playing an element card, putting out a temple, building their villages, trying to maximize their cards, getting their special abilities in hand if possible, and racing to become the first one to get their 5 villages built. All right, well, that is Tribes of the Wind. Let's let you know what we think about it.
Now, I know that you both like the theme here, but I don't know that the theme is particularly...
Oh, no. The theme is... I think the theme implementation is one of my biggest beefs with this game, unfortunately. Because I do like the theme. I think the themes, the way it's utilized, is barely there. I mean,
Right.
like, it's just not really bringing it.
Well, I'm wondering, because I think we all like Vincent Dutrait's artwork, and I think
okay.
the artwork's great. The artwork's really good. The components for the game are pretty good. But I ran into a small problem with the fact that there's 4 different color cards.
Yes.
And then there's 4 different color components that those cards geared towards.
Right.
But it can add some confusion. It's particularly with water, because sometimes something refers to a water card, and sometimes something refers to water. And those are not too different because they're both blue drops.
Right. I guess I'm a little confused as to what the...
If I'm gaining water,
Right, that's a
or I'm
resource.
looking, I know, but I'm looking
Yeah.
at some. I just found that, like, I think they did that because blue cards often have to do with water.
Right.
I just
Correct,
almost
yeah.
wish it had been like dark blue, light blue.
I gotcha.
But
Yeah.
that would be my only major complaint with that. My other little minor complaint about components was finding that pattern in the forest. I found to be just a pain. I was constantly going green, green, purple, yellow.
It's so abstract.
It is.
That's the problem.
It
yeah.
is. I do like, though, that you're given the flexibility that it doesn't, as long as it's uninterrupted and contiguous, it doesn't have to be any particular pattern. It just has to have, you want those colors showing up. I think there's 5 of them, at some place on your board in an uninterrupted
Has to be 5, because if it's 4, you probably did it by accident.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But it has to be in that order, though.
It does, but
Sure, but you can start from
you can
anywhere
go from
and go
anywhere, and you can go in backwards order. So, abstract certainly. I mean that I would not disagree that the implementation of the theme is not very strong.
Yeah.
But so taking that out, the main conceit of the game is this whole, hey, every card that I play on my turn, which is like 90% of your turns
Yes.
is playing a card.
Yes.
Every card I play, I'm looking at the backs of your cards that other people have and your neighbors, which makes us, by the way, best at 3. And that it's this whole tactical thing. It's like, oh, if you have no red cards, I can do this. If I have the most red cards. So that concept sounds really cool. What did you all think of it?
I love that concept, actually. It's not... Part of me is like, oh, it's not that unique, but I'm struggling to think of another game that does it like this. I think there are other games that you have to be, kind of working off of what the people around you have, your neighbors. Obviously, Seven Wonders is one example of that. But this particular implementation of that, I thought worked really quite well. Doubling back to components really quickly, one thing that I think was glaringly missed, unfortunately, is a player aid card.
Yeah.
Put a player aid card in there.
When my kids are complaining that there's no player aid card.
Sorry, no, I know.
That's a huge problem with this game.
The symbols, there's too many symbols for you not to include that. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to rely on the back of the rule book.
Yeah.
It's not on the back of the rule book. It's in the rule book. It's not even on the back.
Yeah, that's true. That should have been there. But I like that main central mechanism a lot.
I think it's a neat idea. It is random because, again, the players are affecting you in a way they're not really controlling. They are controlling it, but they're not purposefully keeping you from something or pushing you towards one thing or another. It's just sort of things are changing around you, and you react to that, making the game incredibly tactical. If you are someone who likes strategic games, long-term planning, you are not going to like this, I think. This is a very tactical game. You need to react to whatever's happening in the two hands around you and whatever you're holding. If you can play this card right now, and it's favorable pretty much whatsoever, you should probably play it, I like that idea. I also like that when you draw, you take you can see the back of the card, the color you're taking. So there's some things you're controlling.
Sure.
But you're relying on this, uncontrollable factor. It's a cool idea. It works well. It just doesn't give you the most, it doesn't give you the best feeling of I'm in control of my own destiny. I think the game is smaller and luckier than it would seem to be at first blush.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a cool concept, and it's fun to do, but I never felt like I was making any real strong choices, with the exception of I need more water than my neighbors. I guess I'll draw water this turn. That seemed obvious, but sometimes I would draw something on my turn and the person's like, oh, come on. And I just messed them over, and I'm like, oh, good. But I didn't know I was doing that. This game is meant to not be multiplayer solitaire, but it 100% is. Because I'm affecting you in ways I don't know about. I'm never stopping you on any kind of purposeful thing. I'm not blocking you in any way other than I accidentally took red cards and you wanted me to have none.
Right. Yeah, that's true. You're not purposely hate drafting. You can't. You don't know what they've got. You know what I mean? You can see, I suppose if you really were like, oh, they've got one of each type. I wonder if they're going to be trying to play.
That's insanity.
No one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. So, I felt a bit more agency than I think the both of you did. And I understand where you're coming from, but I felt like there were meaningful decisions throughout the game for me. Depending upon especially the type of bonus cards that you're going to be choosing, depending upon, am I going to take, when I put a village out, am I going to use the immediate benefit or am I going to use the long-term benefit? A lot of times that's going to depend upon maybe what the game state is, what your player board state is. That might, inform.
I very rarely want the immediate benefit. I always want the points because the points are a lot of points.
The points are a lot of points. There are some one of the characters actually to trigger one of their kind of bonus cards is using two of the immediate things. So that might play into that too.
I like the bonus card idea.
Yeah.
There's 4 of them and you're only going to get 2 of them in play. That's fantastic.
And they're character
tough
specific
choices.
too. Yeah.
It's asymmetrical. My only concern with bonus cards is I feel like some of the characters can get one and play easier than the other. For example, one character, if they have 3 villages, you can just go ahead and do that like really quickly. Another character has to go to the last row and build a village there. That's trickier. I think that's harder to do than build 3.
Probably a temple. Yeah.
Or temple, whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, that could be a little confusing too.
I just felt that was a harder thing to do. Also, the points on the card, sometimes I can look at it and go, whew, that's a hard one, but that's 11 points. Here I was like, they all don't feel like they're equal, but the point amounts weren't too far apart. I never had a grasp on the point values of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I will say that the plays I've had, the plays I've had of this, the scores have been relatively close. I haven't seen like huge spreads, and that would kind of reinforce what you're saying, is that it's probably designed in such a way, like many modern kind of Euro designs are, that you're not going to have a huge disparity
Right.
in points. And there's also the race element to the game too, right? Which is everyone's really, the game and trigger is building that 5th village. And if you're the first one to do it, you get a 5-point bonus, which is not nothing.
No, it's a lot, actually.
But I also felt like there wasn't a lot of situations, like I can't foresee a situation in this game where somebody is building their 5th village and someone else at the table has done their 1st. I can't even see that happening.
No, right. And that's probably my favorite aspect of the game, actually, is that race feel.
Yeah.
I like games where that's the objective, where you are trying to get to some threshold first, whether you immediately win passing that threshold or not. In this case, not, right? You got to score things. But I like that being the end game trigger for something. Because you have that urgency, that it's, immediately you hit the ground running as to how do I eke this out over 13 turns instead of 14.
Right.
And I like that feeling. On the flip side of that, I am worried with everything going on in the game about long-term replayability. The board is always the same. The bonus cards are a little different. Again, I don't know. I worry that how much is going to come to the table, and is it going to stay exciting and flashy? Is that fun, innovative aspect of, I need to check my neighbor's hands? Is that going to feel flat after 5 games?
Well, for me, I'm giving this one a 7. Like 7.000. I mean, because I like it.
Yeah.
It's fun. The idea of playing the cards, looking at other people's cards, I enjoy that. I get to build things up. There are some small detractors that keep me from liking it more. It is really, it is very definition of tactical. You just kind of play, and usually you're you're like, I need water. I'll get water. I have a lot of water. I'll put out a forest. And the moving to get the wind riders around, I thought that'd be more interesting, but it's, once you can get these locations they can just jump to, I was like, that makes it, that was really easy. And in fact, the game never felt tight at all. I was like, oh no, I'm out of water. I guess I'll take a water card and get some water, There's just that sort of thing. But it was
sometimes they don't work, to be fair. Sometimes you can take a water card and be like, I don't qualify for that.
Sure, but then I'm saying I can try to figure out a way to get to that point.
That's the fun part, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
And it does work well, and it's colorful. I like the look of it. I like playing it. It's just not as, I thought I would like it even more, but playing through, I was like, that was very enjoyable. I would play it again. I don't know how much more I would play it after that, but it's interesting. It's neat. It does something different, and has Vincent Dutrait artwork. But
Sure.
7 for me.
I'm going to come in slightly higher than you. I do like it better than you. 7.5 for me. I was also expecting to like it more because it's gorgeous. It's an interesting theme, all of those things. And the things that hold it back for me are sort of minor, intangible things in some ways. Yes, it's very abstracted. Yes, I am concerned about the replayability and the game towards the end. I already felt like, okay, well, it's a little samey. A lot of symbology. I don't mind being very reactive. I like that kind of gameplay. That's fine to me. But again, that's something to consider. I do like the puzzle of it. Looking at a hand and going, okay, you're holding that. What's my best play? And then what do I draw to set me up, assuming nothing changes because I can't plan with that. You know what I mean?
Well, some things you can plan for, like I need one of every color.
Right.
I can
Yeah,
definitely
like
set
if
that
I can
up.
control my own hand, right? But many of them will account for the opponent sitting around you, and you can't really deal with that. But that's fun. I like that. That's not crunchy, but it is enjoyable to try to get that every time, which I think is what you were talking about. So I liked it. I didn't love it. I was hoping to love it because it's a stunner, but I like it. I don't know, again, how often it's going to come to the table. As of right now, 7.5 for me.
Yeah, this is a perfect example, I think, of when games fit your personal style, right? And this game is like right up my alley because the things that you are bringing up, I 100% agree with them. but those just happen to be things I love in games. I love tactical. I'm on the continuum of tactical to strategic. I'm way on the tactical side. I've said that a number of times. I'm giving it a 9. I think it's fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I really, really like this game. It needs a player aid in the worst way. That is, I almost wanted to knock it down to a point because of that, but I like the game enough that I won't. But put a player aid in if you reprint it. I like the race element. I always like games where there's, not a fixed set of rounds, where the players have some agency in and can kind of push things and can, those are all things I like in games. Is replayability a potential issue? Yes, it is. And if that turns out to be the case, then I might have to readdress my score later. But for right now, I've played it a number of times. I've been excited about it. I want to keep playing it. It's another one of those games I look forward to introducing to people. Maybe after making a player aid. But the game itself, I think, is rock solid. I like the theme, although it's barely there mechanically, but visually it sure is. So this one's right up my alley. This is outstanding to me.
Well, there you go, folks. That is Tribes of the Wind. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Z Garcia.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
Have fun in the wind.